Hello everyone and welcome back to what is going on inside Jenny's brain. Nothing good, I can tell you. So if you see my last video, I did a book haul and you could kind of see a theme with the books I picked to read. The theme does continue. I told you that I have a Kindle Unlimited account now. I'm using it on a regular basis. Are my unread books in this shelf crying? Yes. Am I mad at myself? Yes. Am I going to stop reading Kindle Unlimited books? Definitely not. I like them way too much. And I wanted to talk to you about the books I recently picked out to read on Kindle Unlimited. They get weirder and weirder as we go on. So let me first tell you how I ended up deciding to try Kindle Unlimited. I was always a defender of normal paperback books. I didn't like reading on a phone, on an iPad, on a Kindle. I still think I prefer normal books. The thing is, I don't have unlimited amounts of money to spend. And if I can pay 10 euros and read as many books as I want, because there's a lot of variety on Kindle Unlimited, okay? I could also try and educate myself with the books that are on there. Question is, will I ever do that? Probably not, but I could. Don't come for me, I could. So I think it's a great investment. I don't have the space for all the books I'm reading. I don't have the money to buy all the books I'm reading. Some of the books I read on Kindle Unlimited I actually don't want to be in my bookshelf. You will see why when I talk about the content. And I don't know. It was exactly the day I finished reading the A Touch of Darkness series. And I told you in my last video how disappointed I was that it is not a finished series, and that I didn't realize it wasn't a finished series until my friend pointed it out to me, and there I was already reading the second book, so there was no going back for me. And the ending is such a bad cliffhanger that I was like, I can't live with this. I can't live with not hearing anything about Hades and Persephone anymore. That's not it. So I checked Prime Reading like one does sometimes, and I saw a book and it said something with Hades, and I was sold. I was like, okay, I didn't get my ending from A Touch of Darkness, so I'm searching another book that has to do with Hades so I can be satisfied and have a finished story. It was a trilogy, 3 books in this series. The first one was on Prime Reading, the second and the third only Kindle Unlimited. So I was okay, then I do a trial month so I can read them. I read them. Is the trial month over? Am I still a subscriber to Kindle Unlimited? I am. Because I enjoyed it. I don't know, sometimes it's just convenient to have the books right on your phone. If you forgot to bring the book you're currently reading, you can just pick one at Kindle Unlimited. Other people don't have to know you're reading, which, I mean, I like when people see that reading is my hobby and that I carry a book around, and it appears cool when you sit somewhere and have a book. But honestly, sometimes sneaky reading is even better because no one bothers you. No one is asking you what you're reading. You don't have to explain yourself why you're reading a book about Hades. Especially when the cover looks like the cover on Kindle Unlimited. I would not want to read this in public. I'm not that comfortable with other people staring at me. No. So sometimes it's kind of good to have it like, to just have the book on your phone and nobody, you could be on Instagram scrolling, you could read a newspaper article, but actually you're reading a silly little book. So also very convenient. That's how my Kindle Unlimited journey started. It was Hades. It's his fault. It's always, king of the underworld, equivalent to the devil maybe, Satan. He got me there. It's Satan's fault. And let me check my Kindle Unlimited. I'm not being rude right now that I'm on my phone. I want to check my Kindle Unlimited library so I can tell you exactly what I've been reading. I read this series in German, by the way. Danke fürs Lesen. You're welcome, girl. I enjoyed it. Okay, it's called, the series is called The Hades Trials, and the first one is The Power of Hades, and I think then it's The Love of Hades and The I Don't Know What of Hades. 3 books. Honestly, it kind of was a mistake to read them directly after I read A Touch of Darkness, because now the 2 stories are kind of mixed in my brain and I don't remember exactly what was in A Touch of Darkness and what was in the Hades Trials. But it was actually it was kind of a good book. It was interesting. It's kind of a weird concept of a story, because we have Persephone, who's just a normal human living in the human world. She gets abducted by Zeus to the underworld because Hades pissed everyone off by doing something that I'm not telling you right now. As a punishment, he has to marry someone. And his wife will be chosen through the Hades trials, where they have to compete against each other, doing some kind of tasks that will prepare them to be the queen of the underworld. Basically, that's the point. We get to discover pretty quickly, though, that Persephone actually already was married to Hades a long time ago. Something horrible happened. They erased her memory by letting her drink from the river Lethe and put her into the human world. And now she's back, competing in trials to marry her ex-husband again. And it's a very weird dynamic between all the gods and between Persephone and the gods, because they know what happened, she doesn't know what happened. Everyone is treating her kind of weird. She doesn't know, she is conflicted with herself because she wants to find out what happened. She doesn't want to marry Hades, she wants to go back to her human life, but is also curious about the underworld and about everything that happened. And yeah, it's over the course of 3 books, these trials are held and everyone is figuring out what should happen, what will happen. And it's honestly, it was a lot of fun to read this. The concept was kind of weird, and in the beginning I was very confused, but it was a lot of fun. The only problem is that some characters are giving off different vibes in the 2 different series. For example, I always call her Hecate. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation, but Hecate in A Touch of Darkness and Hecate in the Hades Trials, similar vibes but different, and some that bothered me a little bit because I was so used to the one description of her, and then there was like a little different description. But if you're into Greek mythology, I would recommend it. It was fun to read, it was a good story, it is finished. You're not disappointed at the end. I don't remember everything from the story. I know that it was sometimes a little weird, but there are trials in the underworld, so they're supposed to be weird, I guess. But I had a good time, and that's how my Kindle Unlimited journey started, with the Hades Trials. Even though I read them in German, I like them. Sometimes I prefer reading books in English because, I don't know, it's just better. I like reading in English. Reading in German sometimes gives me the ick. I don't know why. Especially like spicy scenes in German. I can't. It's so cringy. I don't know why. But I've seen on TikTok that many people have this issue, that spicy scenes in English are okay, they're fine, you read them, you either like them or you're okay with them. But in your native language, girl, no. They were okay though in this book, but And then I tried my hands on reading the Twisted books. I started with Twisted Love, which is also the first one in the series. I think there are 4 books now. And it's a dark romance. You see, I don't know. I fell into this rabbit hole of dark romances and now I can't get out. I don't know what that says about me, but maybe I don't want to know. But I read Twisted Love and I enjoyed it. But I have to say, I read Twisted Games afterwards, enjoyed that way more, and also realized how bad Alex Volkov is. After I let everything sink in that happened in this book. It's weird, but it's a romance. I'm normally not a romance person. I don't know why. Romance books just were never a thing for me. I was more on the fantasy trope, and if there was romance incorporated into a fantasy, like for example the Hades Trials, I like that there was romance incorporated, but that it's mainly like Greek mythology inspired things. But I normally don't pick romance books. But I've seen it a lot on TikTok. You see, that's also a pattern here. I'm letting myself be influenced by TikTok a lot recently. I should stop. I should stop being such a mainstream girl, only reading things I see on TikTok. But you know what? Don't be mad at yourself, Jenny. It's okay. I read Twisted Love. It's a love story, duh. It's a romance book. It's the brother's best friend trope and a very overprotective, obsessed male love interest. I don't know if I need to tell you more. If you're into this, read it, but it gets like the amount of obsessiveness. Is that a word? The obsessiveness of the male guy with his love interest, it gets out of hand, I think. There's also an author's note in the beginning that the actions are like not good actions, but it's enjoyable to read. I don't know. I think there's a difference in what you would accept in real life and what's okay if you read it, you know? But I enjoyed it. I had fun. I read it in like a day. I really think I read it in a day. I did! Oh my god, I remember now. Do you remember in my last video when I talked about that I'm reading Crescent City and I had to stop because my neighbors were playing so party music that I couldn't concentrate on this plot? I picked up Twisted Love instead because I thought like, oh, it's a romance. There's not that much plot happening. I got sucked into the story so deep, not because it was that good, it was just so, I don't know, it had me hooked. I wanted to know what's going on. So I read until I think 5 in the morning. It wasn't a weekend, thank God, but I read it in one sitting. So clearly I enjoyed it. I wouldn't read a book in one sitting if I don't enjoy it, but it's, I don't know. If you're normally not the romance type, don't read it. If you don't mind a little romance. But not that it's romantic. It's not really. The other one was better. I read Twisted Games afterwards. And that's Forbidden Love. And I figured out I like Forbidden Love. I don't know why. But I don't know. Makes me kind of happy. She's a princess, he's her bodyguard. Clearly they don't match. And due to some circumstances, she normally isn't the first in line to the throne. Her brother is, but he doesn't want to be king anymore, so he says, nope, you're the queen now. So she's even more forced to not be with her bodyguard, and it's their story. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the princess vibes. I don't know what to tell you. You can't really talk much about the plot there. I wouldn't say there is not much plot, but the main thing in romance books is discovering the relationship between the two love interests, and the story around it is just story. But I liked it more. If you want to read one of them, read Twisted Games. There are 4 more books, but I have to say I'm not interested in the other characters. So it's basically, in Twisted Love is actually the first book. You can also read them independent from each other. You don't have to read them as a series, but it's one friend group of girls who met in college. And each of these girls' love stories is portrayed in a different book. So there might be, if you read Twisted Games, there are spoilers to Twisted Love. Just to let you know. But I I'm doing a horrible job of explaining this right now. And then I read a book I want to talk about because it was so weird. I've never read anything that weird in my life. And I read this book because I saw a TikTok again. And she said, like, that was one of the craziest books she's read. So I was like, okay, sounds like something for me. I'm in a weird mood. Give me a weird book. It's called Does It Hurt? It did hurt. It did hurt. I don't know what that even was. I don't even know how to identify the genre of it. It's if you mix 50 Shades of Grey with what actually? With a bad murder mystery. Put them together in a box, shake it, and then you have this book. Weirdness all over. You have the main character who's like running away from her life because something has happened and she's a fugitive basically, and she goes to Australia. Her pattern is that she searches for men in bars, goes home with them, steals their identity and uses their identity to meet the next guy. That's how she stays alive, basically. She has credit cards of other men and uses their name and their credit cards to pay for things, and then she goes along. She's always on the run, always stealing identities. She meets this guy in a bar, does the same thing. He realizes though that she did that. They meet again because he's looking for her everywhere. He pretends he doesn't know, lures her on a boat. Oh. Ich bin kein Opfer. Jetzt will ich nicht weiter filmen. Mir ist das peinlich, wenn du mich hören kannst. Because you make fun of me. Huh? Doch immer. Where was I? Now I'm confused. Lures her on a boat. Ich filme mein Video! Ich filme mein Video! Shut up! Lures her on a boat, but he didn't check the weather before. So they get into a big storm, they shipwreck, end up on like a weird small island with only a lighthouse. In the lighthouse there is living a very creepy guy who has a wooden leg. And they have to stay there for a month because he doesn't have a radio, nobody's coming there, he only gets supplies once a month. They are stuck there for a month. They hate each other, but they also are very attractive to each other, of course. And we have creepy lighthouse guy, and the story spirals up, and it gets even weirder. Things are revealed about the main characters, weird things, how they've been brought up, what made them the way they are. Lighthouse guy is very creepy. It was just weird, okay? From beginning to the end. Weirdness. Not written in a good way, I think. Felt like I was reading a fan fiction written by, I don't know. It was just weird. And now I'm a little scared to read anything afterwards. Because I'm just so weirded out by this book. It was it hurt. Does it hurt? It does. It hurt my feelings to read this book. I didn't enjoy it. But I had to finish it because I was curious about how the story got wrapped up, but I didn't like it. Would not recommend. But what I recommend, I haven't read it yet, but I'm so excited. I think I never mentioned it on this channel, but I'm a big Formula One stan. Like by Pierre Gasly. I love Formula One, I love watching it, I love the drivers, I love all the behind the scenes videos that are brought up. I spend most of my time watching Formula One content now because it just brings me so much joy. And there actually is a book series inspired by Formula One, and it is on Kindle Unlimited, and it's called Throttled. I'm pronouncing that so wrong, I'm quite sure. But it's a Formula One inspired romance. And I am in a romance mood, it appears to be, at least, if you see my library, but I think this will make me happy. But I'm also hesitant to read it because I have very high expectations, and if they are not met, I will be mad. At myself, at the author, at everyone. But I think that's going to be my next read. And it's again not one I have in my bookshelf, and they are all crying about it, but I can read whatever I want. My choice. That video was a mess. I should have scripted it better. I didn't script it at all. I just sat down because I felt like filming. So let's see what I make out of it. I hope you enjoyed it. Do you have any Kindle Unlimited recommendations for me now that I am a subscriber and I can use it to read? I would be very glad to hear your opinion. If you've read any of the books I mentioned, especially if you read Does It Hurt? Because it scarred me for life, I think. Yeah, hope you have a nice rest remaining. What am I saying? I hope you have a great rest of your day and see you next time. Bye!